showtime!
Since Genshin Impact's release, we've gotten a lot of new characters, and several of these have given us drastically improved methods of mobility. But I want to know just how much better. So I've set up a bunch of categories, from gliding, swimming, climbing, running, and long distance running. So let's just get right into it. Starting off with speed climbing, we're going to have every category of character, which for the duration of this entire thing is going to be adult males, adult females, teen females, teen males, and kid characters. For climbing, the perfect testing spot is the center temple in Enkanomiya. It is perfectly flat, it is very tall, and it's got markings on the wall to help me measure just how high people are going. Every character is jumping as much as possible right up into the point where I freeze just before they fall to their death. As this climbing test is a test of endurance, we're not going to be testing speed for this one. It's purely just how far they can go, and it leaves us with these rankings right here. However, there is one special mention, and that is Kazuha. With the help of his skill every 6 seconds, he can go even higher. Now, unfortunately, my test here is not very accurate because I had to do it on mobile, and without controller support on Android, that was an utter nightmare. But Kazuha can go higher than anyone else possibly could. Next up, we have regular climbing, something we probably all had to do just before we fall to our deaths before reaching the top of a mountain. This is yet another test of endurance. Speed is not really a factor here, as you're gonna run out of stamina before you climb something insanely tall, except for one case later on. Since playing with mobile controls is about as enjoyable for me as the prospect of fist fighting a cactus, I decided against doing the same camera angle I did last time. Luckily, the unique markings on this temple make it very easy to actually compare where people are. Not only are there lots of markings to the left where I could also count just how many bricks they've passed, but even better than that, there are these 4 sword-shaped decorations to the right of the characters as they climb that makes it incredibly easy to tell where they are and how far they've gone. Now, with the slow climbing, Kazuha was able to get in many more skills than he was with expending his stamina jumping. That made him reach a lip where he couldn't naturally climb over, and I fumbled it and I fell, which doesn't matter because, well, he won by a long shot. And what's more than that is Kazuha can literally climb infinitely, just not quickly. By only using his skill, he could literally climb an infinite distance without ever spending any stamina. Even without that, Kazuha is by far the best climber. He's the fastest, he can go the furthest, he's just all around the best at it. On to gliding. With the help of the portable waypoint, we have a perfect spot that starts us off with a perfect orientation for every new character. That's going to help this test be as accurate as possible. This is the one I was probably the most personally curious about. I've always known that there were differences in running and walking speeds and swimming and climbing, but I never knew for gliding. I never bothered to look it up. I never bothered to test it until now. As you can see, with the exception of the gliding passive on Amber, everyone is pretty much depleting their stamina at the exact same time, and everyone lands at more or less the exact same spot. Any variance can be just chalked up to not bringing out the glider at the exact same frame for everybody, or just an ever so slight camera shift, because sometimes that does happen at a fresh teleport. You'll see the camera jitter just like a millimeter, and that's enough to sway things just a tiny bit. I included Xiao obviously because of his skill. He can use it while gliding, and that will propel him forward a little bit. Unfortunately, I only have C0 Xiao, but the difference between C0 Xiao and a Xiao that has one extra skill charge is really just a little extra boost, because once you actually start gliding, you're going to be using the same single charge off cooldown every single time anyway. It's not nearly as significant as, say, Yelan's C1 is for her running ability. And as we can also see now, Xiao can obviously go way further than anyone else, and he will get there a little bit quicker than everyone else. So Xiao's overall the winner. Everyone else, I'm going to say just a tie. You'll spend a little less stamina with Venti and Amber. Next up is swimming. And to start off the swimming categories, we are going to have the most stamina efficient form of swimming, which is the dash spam swim. Each character starts off the same portable waypoint where they will dash into the water and then start their swim, which will be handled entirely by a macro, ensuring that every character gets the exact same intervals of dashes. Now, unfortunately, this method does cause a little bit of direction shift that is kind of random, so you'll see me constantly trying to course correct towards the pillar in the distance. As you'll see later on, some of the differences are so big that this isn't going to cause a major problem. It's just not 100% accurate. Also, can we just talk about a moment how Klee looks almost like she's fighting drowning? She is struggling. And here we can see, yeah, she really is struggling. The kid characters do not fare well in this test. One thing you might notice about this sprint spam swim test is that it seems that only the character's age class matters. Their ending stamina and their ending times are basically the exact same. I'll chalk any difference up to just my error. Pretty much as long as you don't use a kid character, it doesn't matter. Now is the regular swim, which much like the regular climbing is your last ditch effort to not drown yourself when you don't think you're quite gonna make it far enough. It is worth noting that this is a completely obsolete method. You should never do this because the sprint spam is available to everyone and is just better in every way except, this way you just have to hold a button. Now what you might notice is things are drastically different here. The males are very far behind. In fact, right about now, you might be starting to worry about Bennett, and you're right for doing so. He could not make it, and guess the teen males just suck at swimming. But what about sprint swimming, where you just hold down the sprint button and just go as fast as possible? There is, however, a problem with this test, and that is everyone appears to be going at roughly the same speed and nobody can make it. Using the size of the pillar and the distance, it appears that the adults are a little bit further ahead, but it doesn't appear that the kid characters are as far behind as they were in the sprint spam test. So the results are a little bit inconclusive, but we all know for sure that Beidou is just the best at it. She's an adult and she has a swim passive, but even she still can't make it. And let's just give a quick honorable mention to the special sprinters, Mona and Ayaka, both of which having a method to spend basically no stamina to cover distances. So similar to Kazuha, they can go very far, even more for Ayaka because she can just freeze the water and she can literally travel infinitely. But even with this method being very unpredictable because you're going off in multiple directions, kind of uncontrollably unless you have very precise control over this, you're still faster than swimming, but it's not swimming. So that leaves adult females being the best swimmers, particularly Beidou because she has a passive built in. And maybe don't use teen males if you're not doing the trick. For short distance sprinting, I was able to build a short track inside my teapot, which not only makes it a lot easier to measure distance, but also gives me a very controllable environment. First up, we will be testing just their base walking speeds. Each of the character types is going to be timed to see how long it takes them to get to the end of this track. The hedges that I put in this track are roughly to mark the quarter markers in this track. Obviously, I had to do it by eye, so it's not perfect, but it's good enough, and honestly, I just need them there for some later tests to be able to tell when they get to certain points for when they can't actually make the full distance of the track. And much like was the case with some of the swimming methods, it appears that this is basically just age bracketed. The difference between the male and female within the ages is negligible. But let's see if that also holds true for sprinting. And since we have characters like Kaya, Kazuha, and Razor, we're going to have a few more candidates for this one than we did for walking. The timer is going up to Zhongli here because adult males were the first to hit the halfway mark in this track. Kaya just spent less stamina doing so. And now we'll move on to the other four competitors, who are going to include teen males representing bunny hop. Now a lot of characters can do bunny hop, but teen males are the most common ones, so those are who are going to be representing this method. And as we can see, bunny hopping smoked the time, well, not smoked, but beat the time of adult males. And not only that, they don't have an endurance factor. They can keep going and going for as long as the bunny hop isn't interrupted. Next up is the most common method of travel among probably all players, and that's just sprint spamming. If you somehow still don't know, you just mash the shit out of your dash button, and the key to this movement method is the double dash. By spamming, you'll do 2 little dashes, and that's what makes this method so good. The speed for adult males is actually rivaling that of bunny hopping. The main difference is bunny hopping can go forever. This can't. And now we'll be throwing in Yelan and Sayu just using their skills just to see how they match up. With the help of no additional movement, C1 Yelan is actually able to clear that halfway distance faster than any other method, which is going to take her really far, literally in the long distance run coming up. And that leaves us with these results for the average run, I would say, with bunny hopping obviously being the clear winner. And finally, and most importantly, we have the long distance run. This is going to be done on a long road going down the middle of Liyue, and it's going to be kind of the most inaccurate one because I'm going to do my best to stay in the center of the road as possible, but there are some bumps and snags which will affect some other characters, and it won't be perfect, but since it's a long distance, hopefully it will average out. I'm going to do my best to account for those errors when they show up. The timer also ends when they hit the middle of this bridge, which is clearly defined by the markings. In the top left here, we have what was previously, in my opinion, the best mobility comp we had prior to Yelan. Bunny hopping is clearly great, but a small change in terrain can cause you to pull out your glider by mistake, then all of a sudden you're back at square one with an empty stamina bar. You'll also notice that a lot of combinations are missing. There are some that I chose to leave out because I didn't think they were important, and there are some that I included, like Xiao in the last one, that I just wanted to see. There's one very important thing that needs to be pointed out here as we're getting to the end of these results. C1 Yelan double Animo may have only been a few seconds ahead of the old previous best running comp, but that doesn't account for the fact that it can literally go forever at that speed. And with Yelan's skill being faster in a short burst, that means you'll get short distances a little bit quicker than the benefit of a long distance run. But again, the benefit of long distance run is that she regenerates stamina while doing it, so she can go forever. But you don't need C1 Yelan to do that. While Sayu's skill may not regenerate stamina while it's active like Yelan's does, it does, however, regenerate Yelan's skill cooldown while it's active. So by making sure you always use Sayu's skill immediately after using Yelan's skill, you will be able to achieve an infinite run just like you can with C1 Yelan, just albeit with a lot more effort than what just C2 Yelan or C1 Yelan takes. And it's just a little bit slower because Sayu's skill is slower. I hope you learned something at least interesting or useful from this. You can draw your own conclusions from this information. If you want my best exploration team, it is Yelan, Kazuha, Sayu, and then Ayaka. You get the best of land, air, and sea. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my socials, and I will see you in the next one.